Hi, this is Ben from Turn Sounds. This episode was exactly as long as a piece of string.
Very good.
Yeah,
The age-old question.
there you go. Welcome to Just Keep Walking. This is a podcast focused on the Walking Dead universe, and today we're covering the final episode of The Ones Who Live. Will it be the final episode of the Walking Dead universe?
Who
Probably
can
not,
say?
but we'll see. I'm Ben, and I'm very excited to hear what Isaac's intro this week is going to be.
Oh no, the pressure. This is it, I guess.
Yeah,
Hello.
there you go. Good job.
Yeah.
Listeners can stay tuned a little bit later for an exclusive update on Liam, where he's been and where he is. We're hoping he's still alive. We're hoping he hasn't been kidnapped by the cartel in Mexico, but you can't know for sure.
Well, we will know when we get this recording.
Unless he's doing it at gunpoint, because it is just an audio recording, so we'll
True.
see. We'll
Well,
see.
Okay, we'll listen out for the little signs that, the little,
Yeah.
what unusual words would Liam use in this that we'd go, hang on, Liam wouldn't talk that way.
Yeah.
That'll be our clue.
I'll think about it. We'll come up with some.
Yeah.
But yeah, diving straight into the episode so we don't drag people on for too long.
I'm sorry, can I just quickly...
Of course, go for it.
Because, Liam, like us, Australian, and maybe
Yeah.
he's in Mexico, and he, fools them into thinking, that we talk in crazy ways. And so,
There
to
you
warn
go.
us, he's just like, g'day, didgeridoo, kangaroos. And just,
Yeah.
they wouldn't know. So,
Can't wait to boomerang back to you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one.
Mm.
All right. And any American listeners... Oh, speaking of American listeners, we've also got a message from Walking Dead replying to last week. So we'll come to all that in a little bit. Yeah, feel free to send us through as well any Australian slang that you think exists.
none of that does, by the way. I made all that up. It's highly offensive.
Yeah. What did you think of the episode?
Trash!
Wow.
Rubbish!
Actually?
Should have been directed by Dumpster Guy, because it's where it belongs. Trash!
Wow. Okay.
But to put it in an analogy, yes, it was trash, but then sometimes people throw good things away in the trash, and you're like, oh, what's this doing in there with the rest of the trash? So
Okay.
there were some good
It's a
things.
very interesting analogy.
I don't dive through trash, but I can just imagine. So ultimately disappointing, unfortunately for me.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like we had a problem that I always had when I was doing story writing or whatever, where I spend 3/4 of the whole story building up, doing a really good job, and then in the last quarter everything gets finalized and tied off, and this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And so it felt like they kind of wrote themselves into a corner, and they were like, we really want to include all of these things, but we're already at 30 minutes or whatever, and it's a 45-minute episode. So how do we quickly,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how it felt to me.
Sure.
Even though I was satisfied with the ending, I suppose, there was just many cliches, which I think they've repeated in the past. But are you at odds with me there?
Oh, no, not completely. I think there was so much that was that kind of sucks. But overall, I wasn't I didn't have a bad time. I thought it was an enjoyable experience, and it was good enough and ticked the main boxes for me. So I was happy enough with it, but definitely, nothing to write home about.
But enough to podcast about. I
Yeah,
suppose.
there you go. Yeah, so yeah, we'll come to a lot of the stuff at the ending later, but I guess big picture. Yeah, do you feel like we're gonna get any more of Rick and Michonne in the future?
I mean, maybe as a feature or something. I don't think their own shows anymore.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as spoilers ahead for this whole thing now, but we didn't get to see the whole band get back together. It was just the kids, which arguably it's less messy that way.
Yeah.
But also it kind of really means that we didn't get any of the reactions from any of the other cast seeing
Sure.
Rick and Michonne back together again. And so it doesn't create that excitement and hype that you might feel as an audience member watching, going, wow, I remember this just like in the old days. Now let's see what they have to do going forward.
Sure.
So because we were in a way robbed of that, experience. It doesn't leave me wanting more
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the main thing is just the reunions and stuff with the other characters. Like, I guess they could at the end of the Daryl show and Carol like have them come back and reunite at the end of that show potentially, because that would be the other like main one that they really have to do.
Because how do you feel about when they have characters who don't know that other characters have died? Like Rosita comes to mind. Like Rick wouldn't have known that she had died, and then I'm sure quite a few others. None really come to mind. But and like Princess as well. Like he wouldn't have met Princess before. I don't think. Yeah, like, pink jacket.
Yeah,
like a whole bunch of characters, but mainly ones that are lost. Yeah, scenes pretty much being like, they're all hugging, high-fiving, and then he's like, wait a minute, where's this person, and then like, cut to the memorial thing that they've set up for all the people that are lost. And
sure. And also he left Negan in jail, so seeing him, well, now he's doing his own thing in New York or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of loose ends character-wise, but I feel like I don't mind if they just leave it here, because it might just be too messy to try and do everything else. Because then, like, if you were to do a movie, for example, you've got to come up with a whole nother story, a whole nother bad guy, and try and weave all these catch-up things in there of Rick finding out all these things that have happened while he's away. Yeah, and I don't see how it could work in a smooth way, but you never know. Maybe they could just pick like the three main things.
Is it the kind of thing like we're not asking for it in any way, but we wouldn't complain if they did make it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I would have liked it more in this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess that's overall talking about the series now. Like, they're just, for 6 episodes, they still felt like way too much filler.
Yeah, it did, hey.
And like this could have been the opportunity. Like, so tricky with Daryl not there. It's just a mess. But like, yeah, they could have made it like really satisfying and paid everything off. But
because everything was there with like, I actually didn't mind, and I know we're starting at the end of the episode here, but I really didn't mind the voiceover kind of explanation we had for everything at the end there. Like, it makes sense that this big incident happened and most of the CRM died, and so all of the Civic Republic were like, hang on, maybe you've got way too much power here, like we need to have a full-on inquiry into this and like reform and all of that, and then have a good look at, actually people should be able to be free and travel the borders and things, hence, now Rick and Michonne being able to get helicoptered out again. All of this set to like beautiful swelling music and everything that sounded so reflective and just peaceful. And so it would have made sense to see, all of those characters that would have been so happy to see Rick and Michonne come running over the hill, like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, I'm kind of thrown here because I had my different guesses of ways it could have gone, but really, in order to bring it back and do like a proper ending with all of that stuff, you'd have to, I feel like you'd have to leave the CRM open-ended. And so I guess my version of this show that I would have liked is to have first 2 episodes maybe focus on escaping from the CRM, but then the rest of it is just out on the road, surviving zombies, all the kind of stuff that, is the appeal of a zombie show, a survival show in the first place. And you have some stuff in the last few episodes of maybe getting back towards Alexandria and you get some reunions, all that. And then it sort of ends on a tease of once Daryl gets back and everyone's here, we've got to face this big enemy. And then I guess what it would have felt like is everything that the show's been building towards is, they were surviving, they were building a stronger group, they found this place, and now they're building a whole civilization and an ideology, and now they can take that and actually, by taking over this huge group, they can then save the whole world to an extent. But but to have it all just like kind of happen as like Rick found out in 10 minutes and then suddenly he just decides to blow something up and then they just walk away and that's it. It's all over in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as like it's tied into everything else.
Well, I suppose in support of that, you also at the same time had Michonne watching that little kind of like briefing. And it's I got a note on that one actually. Michonne watching the speech couldn't look more shocked if she tried.
Yeah.
Like you got everyone kind of sitting there and her eyes are like wide open. You know, she's got very white eyes.
Yeah.
Like beneath
Even
this mask.
through a very strong mask.
So she's walking around like unblinking, just fully widened eyes. I'm like, just try and act a little bit calm. I know it's horrifying, but
yeah.
So she gets to learn the full plan at the same time as Rick, so that when they meet each other, they're both straight away on board with, this can't happen.
Sure.
So,
yeah. And I mean, that, like, yeah. I'm just imagining all the possibilities of, like, imagine them getting a hint of that or finding out this is what the CRM's doing, but we just can't possibly stop it ourselves. But maybe if we get back home and we can make a plan with everyone else and really do it properly, then I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. But
as it happens, it couldn't have been more perfect for them with everybody gathered right in front of a tent full of bombs. Like
that no one was guarding and no one went into for the whole half hour it took to hook up the grenades.
Yeah, well,
even though the doorway was like flapping open in the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watching that, I was like, surely this is fraught with peril. Like, as soon as they come walking outside of the tent or whatever and someone sees them, they're just going to shoot them in the head and then they won't pull the string tight enough. And so it's like, I don't know, they measured it perfectly, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah.
But it was there was enough that worked for me overall.
Yeah.
Let's just go through it from the start, I guess.
Okay.
I didn't take many notes, sorry, but
my first, that's okay, I got a couple.
Cool.
My first is right at the start. I felt like it was overly cinematic, like it was trying to be this big epic conclusion of a thing. And, you've got Rick's monologue of, I tried and I, all of these things. I didn't mind all the splicing of the different scenes from past series and seasons. I thought that was kind of cool.
For this context, it works well enough.
But like I kind of imagined it straight away in my head, and I was like, well, how would I have done it differently? So Rick strolls up to the gate with his hands up, and like he gets let through. Can you imagine if the episode just opened up on the sound of him walking? Like, they always do the walking of the feet along the gravel or whatever. Pan up and you see it's Rick walking with his hands up, and it's just like you could have spent less time in that whole opening scene, just had him pretty much super calm and easy, just walking up to the gate with no voiceover or anything. And it kind of would make us kind of go, what's this? What's like, how did we get here sort of thing?
Yeah, true.
And I think it puts a little bit of the mystery back into it and doesn't treat it as this like, because the music was like overly epic as well.
Sure.
And it just felt a bit full of itself for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess, it hasn't quite earned that level of epicness in the storytelling. Like, as far as where this sits, like this being the conclusion of Rick Grimes and The Walking Dead, that's in that sense it's earned it. But like this story has been relatively small. It's just been like them finding each other, crashing in a helicopter, surviving on their own for a bit, and now it's like this massive epic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that can summarize a lot of the things that were a bit more cringy in the episode and the show overall. Like even the opening shot panning over towards them, and we laughed when they're on the bed. There's like a bloody axe and the sword next to them, just so it can be like the perfect icons of all the things that are them. But it's just too much.
Yeah.
And it completely lacks any sense of like realism as well.
Yeah, overly forced symbolism to be like, look, exactly, side by side. This is... Yeah, I hear you completely.
And those are some of the main complaints with me for the dialogue as well. Rick killing Beale, and it's like, it could have just been one sentence or something, but he's got to have this whole inspirational monologue of this
Yeah.
giant, beautiful life and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then Michonne, that love's not dead or
Oh.
whatever it was. Yeah, it's just too much.
I don't know how they got away with the delivery on that second time she says it, because it didn't feel like how a person would say something like that. I get it. You've stabbed, a person, and you're probably full of adrenaline and all of that. But I don't know, something like, love never dies or something.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was it. I think so.
And like, yeah, sure, it's an endearing thought, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with this whole show is that it feels like there's a story, and then they said, oh, well, we want the theme of the show to be like this epic romance, and it's love, can do anything.
That's
and
how
that's
it was
the theme.
marketed,
And then
yeah.
they just had to force that into the story and make that the big thing, even though it wasn't really naturally there as much as they wanted it to be.
The connection between Rick and Michonne? Or?
Oh, it's definitely there, but like, yeah, just having to have that as love never. What was it?
Yeah, I think that love never dies or something.
Yeah, I feel like it's just too much.
Fair. Yeah,
Mm.
fair. I got RJ, is it RJ?
Mm.
At the end, like, as well says to Rick, like, I knew you'd come back, and I was like, no, you didn't. And so then Rick says, how? And it's like, yeah, fair question, Rick. How did he know? I believed. Like,
Okay.
Yep. All right then. We'll keep it in. Yep. No worries. But no, cringy. Didn't like it.
Yeah. We'll come back to that. There's a lot of questions there.
Michonne, I had a question for like before we even started talking about all of this, but I'll save that to the end if I can remember.
Sure.
Michonne couldn't find the documents. So she's in Jadis's office, and
I thought she told them exactly where it was.
this is I was like, didn't you get specific instructions or whatever? So she's there like, hyperventilating, breathing, like tearing the place apart. And my first thought was like, the whole point of these documents is it's supposed to be like this dead man switch type thing where I better stay alive, otherwise as soon as I'm dead, these documents will fall into the hands of whoever needs to see it. And it's like, well, you needed to rummage around her whole room desperately to try and find it because you were looking for it. Like, you're telling me that after you die, they're not going to have just some kind of like cleanup staff come and just empty out all of your stuff and it'll all get filed into these boxes, and maybe one day someone will go through it. Like, it made it sound like it was like some kind of actual timed thing that she has to stop herself every morning.
Right.
Like that kind of a dead man switch.
Yeah, I thought it was alright because like you don't want it to be so obvious that the cleaner's going to find it, but I feel like that's enough that if someone's died and you go and put away their things, you pick up this cat. It's like, oh, what's that? You have a look.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
Probably, you're right, yeah. But I just thought
I get what you mean, though.
I get it's desperate and everything, then she's tearing it up, which the first thought I had was you'd actually be better wetting it all and then rub it together. It'll like...
Yeah, if you don't have many options, just eat it.
Yeah?
That's what I was thinking.
Have you ever eaten paper?
No, like I'm sure it's not nice, but like...
not easy.
Yeah, if you had to.
It's a lot of paper to get down as well. I tried just for the joke of it eating a Post-it note once.
Okay.
Like as like a big defiant move against like a sibling I was trying to hide it from. And you're there for like a full 20 seconds like like trying to and then swallowing it sucks. So probably not an option, but
fair. There was enough paint in that room. She could have soaked it in paint or something.
Because the point being, if someone's meticulous enough, they could have pieced together all the torn up pieces, but as soon as it's wet and mushed together and the ink's all running and everything, forget about it.
For sure. Black paint.
There you go.
Yeah. No. Like, that's enough of a nitpick. Because I was thinking the same thing in the scene, but it's like, well, as far as what works on camera, they got close enough.
Yeah. It would have been so irritating if she'd like held onto the documents and then ran out the room and like bumped into someone and spilled them on the ground.
Yeah.
We all would have been going, oh.
At least they didn't do that.
Yeah. Any notes from you or?
Not yet. No, feel free to go through yours.
Cut to Beale's speech where he's talking to Rick. This is an interesting one because it's like close up of his face and he's looking into the camera talking to us.
Put your gun on the table.
Exactly. And I was looking at him going, this is like classic video game character speech where like you're holding the controller looking at the screen and he's like, yeah, has this whole monologue about like how this place was built and he's turning around gesturing to things.
Yeah,
and, like you look down and like there's your stuff on the table and it just reeked of video game like monologue stuff and it made me laugh.
Yeah, nice.
Rick's shaking hand as he puts the blade through Beale's hand. He's there and he's like twisting it round and he's like shaking it. I'm like, give the poor guy a break. Like, anyway.
Yeah. And I mean that was a little bit where it stood out. Not that the CGI looked bad; it looked pretty good, but just that like the way he was twisting it is like there would have been a lot more resistance than the effort you're putting into it.
Yeah, you know the cliched thing where like the fight between the bad guy and the hero, where it's like why are you doing this? We could have ruled the world, and all of those sorts of things.
Yeah,
a lot of the time when they're having that like fight speech or whatever, I roll my eyes at it because I'm like, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get answers. Like, it's come to the point where one of you is going to walk out of there alive, hopefully.
Yeah.
So what are you, like, is your hope that if you say the right things, you can change the person's mind, like in a desperate sort of attempt? And so, like, it's always been a bit of a question to me, and it makes it a bit of a cliche to the point where it's a little bit cringy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I actually did like his questions because he was pretty much saying to Rick, like, I know that you got away and you still came back, and it intrigued me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know why. So even after Rick throws the knife at him, he's like, just tell me why.
Why did you come back?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So
it
wasn't all bad.
Yeah, and I liked the sort of how he realized what Rick was about to do, and they had the flashback to look into my eyes, kind of reminding you that he's good at reading people, and then just before it's about to happen, he clicks. He's like, "Oh no, come on!"
Yeah,
yeah. I liked how that unfolded.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Next note is Rick is not sus at all. Heavy breathing through the radio.
Yeah,
so he's talking to Stone. No, what's her name? Southie African. There we go. Thorn. Yes, she calls him, is everything right? Yeah, nothing. He's just
Why
gone
did
for
he
a
have
walk.
to call her like immediately after the fight? It's like take 60 seconds to catch your breath and then call
He's
her.
like, oh, shall I come meet you now? No. He's like, yeah, so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely.
Made me laugh. And then my final note is at the end, actually, after the bomb goes off. So did you?
Yeah, cool.
Else?
Well, when Thorn walks into the room because she's suspicious and walks into where Rick and Okafor were and sees Rick's hand there.
Yeah.
I don't know why he left his hand, but it's like the funniest thing of like normally in that sort of a thing there'll be like a drop of blood or he left a fingerprint. No, he just left his whole hand on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still feel like, yeah, sure, it was your big defiant move or whatever. I don't need this thing anymore. But it's still got like a blade in it and everything. Like, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Keep it.
Yeah. I don't know. So that was just funny as far as like, was that like a calling card intentionally, or is that like the dumbest piece of evidence you could accidentally leave behind?
One or the other. Because like her whole motivations, Thorn, like confused me quite a bit at the end. I had a feeling that once Jadis died and we knew that Beale was going to die, that it would mean that she would be like the biggest bad in their way.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I wasn't sure what her motivations were and why everything was so important to her, why she would then stand against Rick and Michonne. And then at the end, when she, like, before she gives the mask away, has some line about, like, Okafor was right or something. And Beale was
after
wrong.
she's been saying Okafor was wrong the whole episode.
And then it just hands the mask, and Rick doesn't even say see ya or anything. Like, he just takes the mask off her and then off they go.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was one of those things that felt very unfinished to me,
Mm.
like her arc and I didn't know what was important to her, like other than leadership for leadership's sake or whatever.
Yeah. No, I very much agree. And it's not too different to what we were saying last time about Jadis of
Yeah.
just not quite fully understanding her motivation. And really, yeah, like everyone with the CRM, like I'm not fully understanding why you are so passionate about their cause.
I do actually.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I was grateful for, actually, was the explanation we got from Beale, pretty much using Rick's whole thing about you got to sometimes burn things down to bring them back better.
Yeah, okay.
Understanding he reckons the whole world's only got like 14 years left to live with like famine and plagues and all of these things. And so from his perspective, it's like, well, we can take action now and do some really nasty things for a better future for a lot more people.
Yeah.
You know, build up all of these resources, stop a bit of disease and spreading here and there. But ultimately, by lowering the amount of people using up the resources, that, we've got a better chance, and then we can be the only power so that we're not under threat by other people. And like on paper, I'm listening to this going, or I'm looking at this going like, I understand then your motivations, wrong though they are. I understand why you feel pressed to do this, because you reckon if you don't do anything, that everyone's going to be dead anyway in 14 years.
Sure.
So
Yeah. No, that's fair, actually.
it's not like we'll have all the power and we can do anything we want. It's not anything like that. It's like we're doing this for humanity type thing.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit on board, just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
This isn't at all to get political or anything, but just like that's the thing with like Russia and all that, even China and stuff. Like, why do you need to take over the world?
Ah, yeah. Yeah.
I don't get it.
Someone's got to be in charge, I guess. So.
Yeah, but yeah, do you really feel you can make the whole world a better place, or you like? Because it doesn't seem like you're even doing that in your own country.
Who
I
knows?
don't know. Anyways,
Who
it's just when it's like I don't understand your motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm saying, like with the CRM,
with-
like
yeah.
it seems kind of their mission statement is pretty clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah, but I suppose with people like Thorne, you could compare it to like Simon in the main show. Remember when Negan was maybe dead, and so Simon kind of took over, and he was like worse than Negan.
Yeah.
Because he just wanted to, kill everyone and just make it easy for himself, and you could. There'd been a lot of build up to it, so you could see the kind of signs of what he was getting at, and then when it happened and he took control, then it's like, okay, like this guy's bad news, and we know why he's doing what he's doing, and it felt a lot more natural to me, and you could follow it, you could see what he was trying to do.
Yeah, I miss Simon.
Yeah.
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 I'm Negan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got one more.
Yeah, go for it.
I did like the explosion. I liked like the shockwave of it all. How you could see people getting thrown forward out of their chairs, and
Yeah.
you can imagine one guy with like some kind of special treat about to take a bite, and then yes.
Yeah.
So, but again, kind of like an inconsistency, which I suppose we just have grown to accept that classic Walking Dead, or whatever.
Mm.
But we've gone from like a person dies and then like 10 hours later they might turn, or 2 minutes later they might turn.
Yeah.
Like there's this clock, this countdown or whatever, and so it's best that you just put something through the brain nice and quick.
Mm.
But when you've got an explosion like this happen, then all of a sudden everyone there
Whole
is suddenly
swarm.
yeah, you've got a full swarm.
Mm.
I wish there were a bit more consistency there with like.
Mm.
Cool to have like a couple of stragglers start to pop through, and then you can make more of an effort focused around the confrontation between Thorne and Michonne and Rick and everything.
Yeah.
And then slowly you start to see one or two start to like pop up.
Wouldn't that have been such a more tense and interesting scene? Like if you're already fighting Thorne, and like someone's pinned down on the ground, or you found this safe spot suddenly, and then the body next to you starts twitching, and it's like, oh no, now I've got to deal with this as well. Like, and you don't know, like you're surrounded by dead bodies. You don't know which one of them is going to start coming to life.
Yeah,
next.
yeah. Especially if you were dealing with the walkers, like the one that bit Herschel's leg back in the day, which just suddenly leaps forward. Again, I feel like that is way more tense and scary than like we've just kind of become desensitized to all of these like big hordes that keep coming in.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, Michonne, pinned up one of them against the shipping container and used it, like stepped on its shoulder and used it as a ladder to climb up.
Yeah.
There's like no sense of danger.
Yeah.
Desensitized is a good word.
Because there would have been a point like in the first couple of seasons where like 1 or 2 walkers are on you. Oh no! But like at this point, Rick's got like 4 or 5 all surrounding him, like holding him in different ways.
Yeah,
and just like, yeah.
And twice in a row survives explosions that there's no way he should have ever survived.
Yeah, his vital organs would be like shattered, hemorrhaged. Rather.
Yeah, the explosion the big one was cool, but like, yeah, at the same time, after you, like, come on, you really want us to believe that they're like, 10 meters away from it, and as long as they're under a little bit of water, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
This literally like sends the whole thing, like people flying in the air, like, yeah.
I was worried for a hot second there because we see Michonne like slashing these tanks and stuff like that. I thought they were fuel tanks or whatever. And so I thought that they were being doused in fuel or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then full Anakin Skywalker moment.
Yeah.
Like she finally brings Rick back and he's this burnt, charred, like hardly walking, missing a hand. Like, I'm the brave man. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Like just the way we expected you to look after the bridge.
Holds up the doll or whatever that she made.
Yeah.
Did she have a doll or something or a figurine?
You think of like the little cowboy figure that she finds?
Maybe. Yeah, that's probably it.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there one other note? Maybe. If I think of it, I'll come back to it.
You were going to talk more on RJ and...
Yeah. So, yeah, like, I mean, don't want to be mean, but like, through the entire show, there hasn't been a single moment where RJ's delivered a convincing line.
He's someone's kid, isn't he?
I don't think so, though.
I mean, obviously he is, but
yeah.
I'm pretty sure,
like, because little Herschel was at one point, and there's a few things like that.
Okay,
I'll look it up in a minute, but I don't think so.
Like, I thought like Angela Kang's son or someone.
Yeah, that was baby Herschel.
Okay,
but I'm pretty sure that's not the case for RJ. We'll see.
If that's not the case, then come on, guys. It just
yeah.
Anyway.
And especially, if that's... I mean, you had to have him say something, but, like, surely it's one scene. It's like 2 lines. You could spend 2 whole days just on that. Just, like, spend a whole day coaching him on exactly how to say these 2 lines.
Yeah.
And how not to look like a total weirdo. But, yeah, it's just, like, got this weird stare the whole time. Like, are you the brave man? Like,
yeah.
Wow, that's like... The whole climax hinges on this line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they were already 2 days in to filming that and like that was the best they got out of him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, not to be mean.
Sure, of course.
But yeah, exactly that. I was thinking like you've got this full cinematic, sweep of like helicopters flying over the top, beautiful scoring. We're all hugging and, crying and everything.
Yeah.
And then you get these couple of lines. Like I was happy to see Judith.
Yeah,
and, like, she's looking very grown up now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah, and kind of nice for us as well. Of like, oh wow, it's been a while. Yeah. I mean, not to go on about RJ for too long, but there's a few points where it's like, okay, maybe that day, he's 5 years old or whatever. Maybe he was having a bad day and just couldn't deliver the lines well. But it's like throughout the whole show, right from the start, I remember his first line of dialogue, talking on a podcast about the same thing of it was something like, "Oh, is he gonna come back one day like the Walkers?" Like, surely after the first day, if he's just not cutting it, like find someone else for such a pivotal character. I don't know. Hopefully.
I now, like, unironically, well, I suppose it's ironically, I want to see a whole show just with him and
Yeah.
Judith.
Yeah.
Man,
that'd be something.
So funny.
Yeah.
Like, you think he's dull when he has to deliver very simple lines. Imagine when he has to deliver like angry lines or whatever, or serious, like, you know.
Yeah. And there's just so much weight as well after Carl meaning so much, and this is like Rick's.
He's wearing Carl's hat.
Yeah, yeah. Now this is Rick's new son, who's kind of replacing Carl's role. Nothing.
Yeah.
But I hope he goes on to do bigger and better things, whether he wants to pursue acting or not. And maybe he's just a kid.
Also, first time meeting this man. Who says, "You can call me Dad," and it's like, I've never met you before in my life. Like,
yeah.
So maybe he's a bit shy and like,
sure.
I'll try and give him whatever I can.
Yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, I'm happy enough with just reuniting with the kids. Like, that was nice, and it was all, you know, nice music, all colourful and everything, and you get the sense of the helicopters are going over to bring supplies to Alexandria or Commonwealth or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause like from this point now, are Rick and Michonne going to start like downgrading the way that they lived in the CRM or whatever, and go back to problems with a generator, you know, getting power and, you know, growing farm crops and whatnot? I don't know. Who
knows? I mean, Commonwealth is big enough. You'd think they'd go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they can leave. The one thing we didn't talk about was Beale kind of put that on the table, right? Saying you can take your whole family back here, like, you know. And so that was really the only block, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Except that they weren't allowed to leave once they came in under Beale's command.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, maybe that's something that would have been nice earlier in the show, and have that as something Rick can really wrestle with for more than 30 seconds. Yeah, because it's an interesting proposal. And like Beale said here, it's not like he knows anything different. It's just like, you must have been running off to somebody. What if we could bring them here? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, like there was one more thing from his speech that I quite liked, of when he's talking about the diseases spreading and all the what do you call it, petri dishes of, you know, walking around spreading things to each other. And
petri dishes.
Petri, I don't even know what that means, to be honest.
I get it wrong every time. It's like a place that bacteria can grow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Yeah. It's not good for us though. Yeah.
No. But yeah, I like the world building side of that, and that's one of those things I like in a zombie survival show, of like, okay, what are the actual real world ramifications of all these dead bodies wandering around, and what other threats could that bring about that we might not think of, and they've kind of touched on it briefly before with like crops, and I think it's more in the comics of like, now there's crows have bred out of control, so they're flying everywhere and destroying all the crops, and there's just all the other things that nature, the ways that nature's affected and how that makes it harder to live. I find that really interesting. Yeah. That's pretty much it as far as notes, hey?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like our first predictions on how this was all going to end, they kind of got there, didn't they? But just with a couple fewer steps than we maybe would have liked.
Sure.
And then, like, cool that we got to see Father Gabriel and everything, but other than him, like, and the kids at the end, like, we really didn't get much of the...
Yeah.
I think even just to have maybe gotten, like, Aaron, because we know that he's around... I guess Lydia, and then maybe like the king or someone like that. Like, just give us just a little peek or whatever. I'm reminded of
Yeah.
like Deadpool 2, where he's like, they couldn't have even thrown us a single X-Men
Yeah.
character or whatever. Like,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. To be honest, like I'd rather just the kids than like the kids and Aaron randomly standing there. Like, if you're gonna do proper reunions, like bring everyone in, but I feel like that would feel really cheap if they just had one or two characters, and that's like, well, the best we could get is these guys, and no one else. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky. It's like they'd never get it right, would they? However, they did it for some people. So
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, it's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
I do have a random question that I wanted to ask because it's been tickling my brain.
Sure.
If I said Walking Dead in 2022, what seasons were coming out then?
Oh, well, wouldn't have finished around then.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Yeah, fair. Okay. I ask only because I was at a quiz the other day and it came up with there were 4 different TV shows and it said label them from least popular to most popular as far as like how they're ranked in like popularity or whatever as of 2022.
Oh yeah, that's tricky, hey? As in.
So that we had 4
how popular is whatever's currently airing in 2022?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So they had like Vikings, Halo, Money Heist, and The Walking Dead. And there was a lot of contention on our table because I was saying like, I'm pretty sure Walking Dead is like among like the top watched TV shows of all time, like as far as like these epic shows or whatever.
Sure.
And they were saying like, nah, like it had really good following and then it dropped way off and now it sucks and no one watches it.
Yeah.
And so they were ready to put it as like second best in the list or second to worst in the list.
Sure.
And it ended up being, and this is I find interesting, it ended up being at the top of the 4.
Wow.
Scoring 3rd spot.
Yeah, right.
In like top ranked TV shows.
Oh wow.
In 2022, top 3.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I was ready to put like Money Heist or whatever above it just because I know that did really really well.
Sure.
But yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, and I mean that it is all relative, hey, because you look at. I'm gonna get the numbers wrong, but it was something like 10 million viewers in its peak or whatever. And now it's gone down to like 2 million. That could be completely off, but it's something like that where it looks like if you're just looking at the stats for the show, it's completely crashed and no one's watching it anymore. But then if you compare that small number to what other shows are getting, like that's still a lot of people. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, okay, that's a good way to put it in perspective.
Again, because I'll get the numbers wrong here as well, but they actually showed us when they revealed the correct answer. Vikings was at the bottom of the 4, and that was like place 43rd or whatever in the list.
Yeah, okay.
So to like have that sitting at 43rd, Vikings, which I thought Vikings was a pretty popular show. I've watched maybe 1 season of it, then dropped off.
Sure, okay.
But yeah, so Walking Dead number 3, interesting.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's still cool to see around here. Like, I still see billboards for Daryl Dixon and Ones Who Live and stuff like that on the side of the road, which I don't know if I've seen that for Vikings or whatever other show. So, yeah, that's saying something. Interesting. Yeah, we've talked briefly about this before, but I guess one other option going forward as far as seeing reunions or seeing things going forward is... our dream version of Tales of the Walking Dead, which is just little stories that don't have to have big stakes, but like, what if even if you can't get a whole bunch of cast back, that's where you have Rick and Aaron and whoever else going out on a survival run and catching up on what's happened while he's been away, or you could just have little things like that are satisfying enough without having to create a whole new big story arc. I don't think they're going to do that, but it'd be a cool idea. Like just don't worry about making it a big deal, and you don't have to save the world every series.
Yeah, true. True.
There we go.
Did we have a little word from a long forgotten co-host?
Yes. And I haven't listened to this.
Me
I don't know if
neither.
you
I
have.
was
All
tempted,
right.
but I held back.
Let's see what he has to say. Without further ado, here's Liam. Oh, well, maybe with
Here
a bit of a
in
wait.
studio.
Yeah.
Well, listening to this.
Oh, yeah, here
depending
we
on
go.
Where you're tuning in from.
Whoop.
Good morning or good day to the Just Keep Walking family
is
that is listening to
nighttime.
this, depending on where you're tuning in from. Liam coming at you here. It's been a while. It's been a minute. Haven't been available to actually meet up with the other lads to record, which has been really unfortunate. But I did want to send in a little snippet to just say g'day to everyone and check in and see how everyone's doing.
have time
Give you
if
all
you
an
make
update
time,
on what's been
Liam.
happening in the world of me, I guess. So I haven't been recording again, sadly, because one, I've just moved house. So moved in with my partner and I ended up getting an apartment. So lots of moving, lots of crazy stuff there with moving. It turns out it's one of the most stressful things you can ever go through, right? But on top of that, we then flew to Mexico for 4 weeks within days of us moving in. So pro tip, don't move house and then fly overseas for a month. It's great, but it's also incredibly hard work when you get back trying to play catch up. So that's basically been what's happening in my world. I haven't even had a chance to watch the series yet. I haven't seen any of the episodes of The Ones Who Live. So I'm keen to check in and watch some of the episodes. Well, not watch some of them, watch all of the episodes.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm keen to watch the episodes. I've heard a few good things. I've seen a few things that have been floating around on the old socials because everybody knows that spoilers will always pop up there, which sucks. But yeah, questions, suggestions, hit us up at Just Keep Walking Podcast on Instagram.
He's doing the plug for us.
We've got the email account, turnsounds@gmail.com, if I believe I'm doing that correctly. Again, turnsounds at Instagram, but reach out, say hi. Let me know have you ever been to Mexico? I'd love to hear some stories from yourselves. And you know what's up. Just keep walking. I'm really excited to get back into the swing of things and get into recording some more and pumping out some content for you guys. So looking forward to chatting. See you soon.
Swing of things. Good
Nice.
Negan reference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's on it. I suspect maybe, and this is not at all to throw shade, when you're behind on episodes, or in Liam's case, haven't even watched any of them,
Yeah.
it provides such a block on the week-to-week basis if we are like scheduling to watch and record and we're already up to episode 4 or 5 or 6 in this case.
Yeah.
It means he's got to put aside so much time to watch all of these things now.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't make it viable for him to be able to do that in time.
Good point. Yeah.
So I sympathize with you, Liam. I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder what he was doing on the flight back from Mexico. It's a lot of time sitting, staring at a screen.
BC, he would only ever legitimately watch this on a...
Oh, true. Good point.
Yeah,
You got to give it the full experience.
that's it.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Liam, for writing that in. We're looking forward to thanking you in person
Yeah.
and for doing the Turn Sounds plug for us as well. Yeah.
There you go.
There we
Otherwise,
go.
was there something from Squawky?
Yeah. So remember we asked what did they think of season 2 of World Beyond?
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of how we're very different in how we approach things. Like you and I will just come out and say, "Oh, it sucked," or "Oh, yeah, I enjoyed it," whatever. Whereas they tend to really try and understand it and analyze it. And so yeah, I'll read what he had to say in answer.
Okay. Thank you as
alright.
well. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. He's commented on almost like every episode we put out. So yeah, that's always nice to have a bit of back and forth.
Top fan.
Season 1 and Season 2 are intentionally different from one another. Light then dark. Like growing up, there's the optimistic sheen we all have that ran throughout Season 1, the beauty and the darkness, which wasn't without conflict and hardship. Season 2 should be labelled When Shit Gets Real because it's darker. The floodgates burst open with more of how the CRM operate than we've ever witnessed before, and the protagonists are thrust into much more difficult situations than a kid ever should. We move with them because deep down we want to keep the part of us that fights for a tomorrow while still appreciating the now before us. if you buy in, you reap the rewards. And just to give context, he said at the start, challenge accepted, boys, because we said give us 2 or 3 sentences. So he put them all in very long sentences with lots of commas. And so
I need some kind of sworn affidavit from like the whole Squawking Dead team that they're not paid by, AMC or Scotty G or whoever it is, because wow, you really found a way to make me want to watch season 2
Hey, there you go.
I won't. But wow, I'm impressed. I think like it there was so much about it that just looked bad. Like I've forgotten the character's name now. One of the sisters has that full psycho meltdown episode where she meets someone who was. I remember us.
That was the start of season 2, and we all just gave up there.
Yeah. And like knowing that that's about kind of the CRM and what they're about now, because we've just seen in the last episode of Ones Who Live pretty much the CRM get dismantled.
Yeah.
It again makes me wonder where Well Beyond sits in the timeline.
Yeah, right.
Because I thought that was like 10 years or even 30 years on from... I forget.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be more or less at the same time as like the end of Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So this show, Ones Who Live, would have been after World Beyond. Well,
Okay.
yeah, and there was that Jadis flashback to something that happened in World Beyond, so that would kind of make sense.
Ah, true. Because yeah, there was that one or something scene in Well Beyond season 1 where like they killed the whole town or something like that.
Yeah,
remember?
I'm still trying to remember if I should just go back and look at it, if that was actually the city that was destroyed at the start of this show, if that's completely different.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there you go. Thank you. That's Dave Cameo, who runs Squawking Dead along with all the other crew there.
There you go.
Yeah, and there you go. You, for a moment at least, made Isaac consider watching season 2 of World Beyond.
There was so much that I did like about it, even down to like the different weapons they would use, like the little stick with the flick out, blade and everything.
Yeah,
Just so much that makes sense in like a lived-in zombie world where it's like, we understand all of the things we have to do. We're going to go through training. They had all of these classes about how to aim for different spots, and it's better to run away than it is to fight, and like, all of these different. So like, I appreciate what it stands for. It's just kind of the execution of the whole thing to me was
sure
from season 2. That is.
Yeah, and that's something I kind of am a little bit envious of with people like Squawking Dead, where you can just look past like low budget issues or those sort of things and just really try and look at, okay, what are they going for here with this story? Because maybe that's something I get a bit too caught up with as a filmmaker, really paying attention to like pacing and the feel of something, because that's something where I want to focus on getting that right first and then focus on the underlying themes as like a bonus. But you have to like engage people first and really hit those main points. But maybe I'm just thinking about it too much.
I mean, like anyone who really enjoys movies and the technical know-how of how it's made and everything like that, you're going to be a bit more clued on to things that are done really well that'll go over a lot of people's heads, but then also glaring issues that a lot of people will forgive.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Where would you say you sit on the spectrum, or like how do you enjoy and analyze entertainment?
For me, it's a weird one because I'm really big into like sound design and like how music fits into scenes and things like that.
Yeah.
And so like if a musical cut, especially on a pop song, that I know I might even know the pop song, and like they wanted to just use the chorus of the pop song to like make a scene exciting. And I know that they've like cut it short to end in a particular spot. And so like I'll be very focused on how did you suddenly end the song?
Yeah, right.
Or like splice it so that, the last 3 words of the chorus are the end bit of the chorus that you would normally hear at the last part of the song. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's jarring and I'll sit there and go, oh, they did it again. And like my wife will kind of just be like, did something happen, and then I'll rewind and show, and she go, oh yeah, like that's not how it goes, or that's not how you'd hear it. And so that and sound effects, like if there's an overly used emphasis on a particular sound effect, or it's way louder than it would ever actually be, like I brought up in our other one, like David Attenborough, you've got the sound of like frogs blinking or whatever. Like, like I get it, hyperrealism and everything, but yeah, those are the things that are glaring for me.
Yeah. And camera work, right? Because like for me, I agree with you in the sense of not really liking shaky cam, but I kind of say, I don't like it, but whatever, I'll look past it, and I still enjoy Hunger Games and stuff like that. Whereas like, you'll never watch Hunger Games ever again.
That's my challenge to Squawking Dead. Watch Hunger Games and tell me what you think of all of the extreme close-ups and the like, lightning fast camera changes. There's not like a single shot that lasts longer than like 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
There probably is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Especially the action scenes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Any last thoughts?
Sounds so threatening when any last words.
Yeah.
Gee, I guess like we saw like a tiny little promo for the Daryl Dixon.
Yeah. The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah, great name.
We did actually remark on that. I don't know if you remember on the last episode of the Walking Dead show, where it wouldn't even let us get through the credits. It was like, coming up next is, Dead City and Daryl's show and all of these things. And they, not as bad here, but they couldn't help themselves still. It was like,
Sure.
And Daryl season 2 is coming up, so the Book of Carol, yeah.
Definitely a lot more acceptable of a way to do it, because at least like the episode ended, the music started under the end credits, and you could choose to just listen to the music until the end if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And then click play on the promo.
Yeah.
But that was just so funny with the finale. Eh? Like you couldn't even start the end credits music. As soon as the episode phased to black, poof, you're bombarded with 5 different ads, and then if you stick through the end of that, then you get the end credits music to go. Oh, what just happened? Yeah, good old AMC.
Cool.
Well, that's one last question, I guess. Book of Carol. Daryl Dixon, do you have any interest?
Not even at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will commit to being open-minded,
Sure.
and not sitting down with like a grumpy, attitude or whatever. But I'm also gonna be fair, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna say what I think when we watch it. So I'd like for the focus to obviously be more on Daryl than Carol.
Sure.
But we'll see what we get.
Yeah, I guess it'll be interesting in comparison to this, where it's the same in the sense of 2 separated characters in different locations. With this show, they spent 2 episodes separately, and then they were together for the rest of it. Are they going to do that for Daryl, or are they going to spend the whole show trying to find each other, and they'll get together at the end? Or?
I wonder though, and this is just like a little crazy thought of mine, but you know how like, so you've got like in the New Testament, right? It's like all pretty much stories about Jesus, but you've got according to Mark or according to, Matthew or whoever. I wonder if this is like Daryl Dixon according to Carol, like the Book of Carol type thing, It's like, so everything that we witness of Daryl's story is going to be through Carol's, perspective or her journey in order to get to him.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, this whole, like, even season 1, the whole thing has just been Carol's imagination of what she thinks Daryl's up to.
No.
He went to France.
Oh, crazy Ratatouille crossover. The rat, I saw it.
Yeah. But it is always interesting. I feel like if you listen back to some of our older podcasts, you tend to say one thing about like, oh yeah, I'm really keen for that show. Oh no, I probably won't watch it. And then the week before the show comes out, you'll message the group with like a completely different. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that.
No,
I think it was with Daryl. Yeah, maybe it was that one. Where in the podcast you had said like, oh yeah, look, maybe I'll get around to Daryl at some point, but I don't really care about him in Paris. And then the week of it, like, oh, you guys are ready for Daryl. This is gonna be great. Yeah, so
There
I
you
always
go.
find that funny.
Okay.
You never know what's going to happen.
I think I'm mostly excited to hang out with you guys and
Yeah.
like watch and record and things. It's good fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Good excuse. Alrighty. Thanks as always. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you at some point in the future.
Yeah, great job hosting, Ben, as always. Well done to you.
Thank you. Thanks for being on as well.
Yeah.
All right. Just keep walking.